What is up, everyone? Tis I, Z Gaming Guy, and welcome back to Z Talks. Now, if you don't know how this works, every week we go through and we get topics and we just discuss them in the comments, and I give my piece, I hear your guys' piece, and before we go on to the topics of this week, I like to go back to last week and read a couple comments and give my thoughts on those comments. So first of all, in the reference to the 3 stages of consciousness, being conscious, unconscious, and subconscious, this is a comment from the Chimera Club, and he says, about doing actions unconsciously, I think you can do something because your brain makes you do it. Like, for example, moving your arms while you're sleeping or just moving. You do it willingly, even though it might seem forced. And I think that's a pretty good point. I didn't think about that, like, because in that video I was saying unconscious, that, you know, you're not really doing anything, but sleeping is a really good example of things you're doing unconsciously. It's not subconscious or anything like that. And there's definitely a lot of debate on what subconscious really is, but I think that's so vague and so many different interpretations of it. There might not be a true answer, honestly, but it's fun to talk about nonetheless. And this next comment is about the whole playing with your parents, playing video games with your parents and siblings and stuff. And this is from Youngblood saying, I used to play some games with my mom, such as Mario Kart, when I was younger. She had no idea how to play, but it was still fun. I usually played games with my sisters as well, still do actually, despite the fact that we're all in our upper teens and low 20s. Well, I mean, I don't think age should really matter all that much. My sister and I, only a couple of years ago, played Minecraft together all the time, and we built big old fucking treehouse and stuff, and it was really cool. But I mean, I think a lot of the times when you have memories about playing with your parents, they usually don't know what they're doing, but it's still cool, mainly because, like, you know, you get to, as a kid, you feel like you're really good at the game, but then you see someone who's either really bad, being your parents, and he makes it feel even better, or something to work towards. So I think it's good to play with them, no matter if they're good or not. But yeah, it's still cool that you play with your siblings, though. Definitely good bonding times, you know? Now, that were a lot of responses, and a lot of them were really good. Unfortunately, they're very long, so I'm going to try to, like, avoid the really long ones, but I did read them. I just want you to know, I read all the comments. But now we're moving on to different questions, and I'm going to start off with one that I think is going to be a quick answer, so let's start off with this. This is kind of a long one too, though, so bear with me. This is a theoretical question on what you would do. Your wife came down with a terminal disease and was given a few months to live. However, a doctor found an expensive cure for it, but the ingredients were so rare he could only make enough for a few people. You could only come up with half the money in time, and she would die any day now without the cure. But the doctor refused to take half with a promise to pay the rest because he says that he has plenty of people that could pay the full price. Would you steal the cure knowing that you would be taking away the cure from one of the people able to pay for it, and that you would be arrested for possibly the rest of your life, so you can't be with her but she would live, or would you let her die? And this was by, I'm going to say your name wrong every time, it's like Renade Klein. I'm just going to call you Ray, okay? And if it was my wife, you know, I would marry a person who wouldn't want me to take the cure. You know, like, I don't think I'm going to be marrying someone that's selfish, personally, and like, if I wasn't put in that position, I'd be like, well, that sucks. What are the odds of getting this incurable, well, nearly incurable disease? And I wouldn't want my loved one to be put in a situation where they're basically punished for trying to save me. Like, I mean, at that point, why am I even living that miserable life, potentially? You know what I mean? So I think I would just let the people who can pay for it do that. And, you know, it sucks. It's not an easy choice, don't get me wrong. And it's definitely kind of like the ones where, do you save the one person you love, or do you save 10 random strangers? You know, like, something like that that's definitely hard. And I think that's a little harder, just because, like, especially if I had a Switch, right? Like, it was like a Saw game, I say. But, like, he's like, kill these 10 strangers or your wife or whatever. Like, I would probably save my wife in that circumstance. I know that seems like, well, isn't that contradicting what you just said? Not really, because this is still, in the other circumstances, it's fair play. You know what I mean? Like, they just had the money and I didn't. It was really the deciding factor. So it's definitely not something I can say, oh, 100% of the time I'm going to save blah. It definitely depends on the circumstances to me, and maybe my how I am emotionally at the time, but I think I would have to just let her die, you know? Oh yeah, before I move on to the next question, I just wanted to give this picture a little shout out. If you follow me on Twitter, you've already seen it, but here it is right in front of me. And this is someone sent this in just for funsies. They just made it because they see my big, bald, beautiful head and decided to make this. But I want to give a little shout out. It's really cool. Now I actually might go 2 more questions because this one I think it's gonna be a quick answer as well. And this is from your boy Smokey, and he asks, let me get to the actual question. What direction the channel is gonna go in the next year, because he's basically saying he can't imagine I want to play Mario all the time. And yeah, you're goddamn right. I don't want to. So ideally, the channel would be in a position where obviously it'd be like full-time. So that way I could put out 2 videos a day, like which I'm doing right now during my vacation. It's not super hard, but it still does take up quite a bit of time, especially with God of War being one of them, because that's you know, at least an hour of recording, and I don't just cut out the end and beginning and call it good. I go in between and I keep resyncing the video as it goes on, and it takes pretty time consuming. It's kind of annoying. But ideally, I'd like to have a series going at all times, basically like a God of War or something. So there's something to everyone get latched onto. Games that I come back to every now and then, like a Geometry Dash, Super Mario Maker, Guitar Hero, things like that. And also putting in a bunch of random games, you know, like the fucking Spaghetti game. That game was kind of amazing, to be honest, but it was also kind of just awful. So I like throwing those in. And of course, I want to have these types of things too. I want to have definitely very community moments where we just have conversation. I'd like to have more like community events in the future where there's like competitions or something somehow. There's a lot of thoughts that float through my head, but I just don't have the time to do any of it right now, really. So it's nice to know that there's things that I've planned, but it'll have to wait till this is a potential full-time thing. We'll see though. Also, with that being said, I do have a question for you guys related to that. So if a competitor to YouTube came out, because YouTube is obviously shitting in a bucket right now, and I moved over there, and some of your other favorite creators moved over there, would you make the switch too, or are you kind of like, you just want to stick to YouTube? I'm just kind of curious, because if something does come up, it sounds kind of tempting to move, you know, because even though I don't have a problem with the lack of money, because I don't really get paid much, except for from the donations you guys give, which I'm very thankful for, by the way. It's not the money part that bothers me, it's just the, you know, constant, like, you're not getting put in the recommended, and the view on YouTube is definitely dropping. Like, there's no denying it. People are looking at YouTube like EA almost at this point. You know what I mean? It's just the public opinion is dropping so fast that it's gonna be hard for them to recover. And so if something else comes out, I might move simply because I want to. If we can be the first to move to a new platform and kind of be one of the forefronts of it, I think that'd be, you know, huge and a good advantage. But we'd have to be very on top of all that stuff. So I'm just kind of curious on what you guys think ahead of time. Well, there are 2 questions left that I kind of want to talk about, but we'll see how long this one takes. So this one's from Terminator00666. He really likes putting out questions, so good on you for continuously putting out questions. Basically, he says, recently one of my school's fraternities released a video which was racist, homophobic, and ignorant. They claimed it as a joke, so many jokes can be stereotypical and such, but when a joke gone too far, what's the breaking point between a joke and racism? Basically, like, where's the line? And that is, it varies, you know, there's no like, this is 100% where it starts. It's just, you can say something that could offend one person but mean nothing to another. That's just how it is. You know, there's no way you're going to tell. I can, just the fact that I'm even mentioning this topic will get some people triggered. You know what I mean? They say, they just start assuming because I don't immediately fall into one side that I'm going to be a radical on the other side. You know what I mean? That's just people. They just fill in the gaps and they don't listen to the facts. So, really sucks, but I'm personally one of the people who I say basically whatever I want. You know, there's a couple topics I think you shouldn't joke about, like 9/11 being one, and that's kind of the only one I can think of at the moment. But like, you know, my coworkers, we have a vendor. If you don't know what a vendor is, they're basically people who work at a store, but they're not employees there. You know what I mean? Like the chip people or whatever. Anyway, we have a vendor. She's a black girl. I have a couple Mexican coworkers and no Asian coworkers. But so those 2 right there. With the Mexican coworkers, we joke all the time. You know, like there's one guy who mows his lawns. He's like, "Oh, dude, I love the smell of freshly cut grass." I'm like, "That is the most Mexican thing I've heard you say so far." He's like, "Dude, don't say that to me, all right?" And it was funny. Or there's Russian coworker, and a customer asked me something about knives, and I didn't know the answer, and I was like, "You're Russian, you know about knives, right?" He was like, "Yeah, maybe." You know, and my Mexican coworker, he offers me some hot sauce to put on like literally everything. Anytime I eat lunch, he offers it to me. I'm like, "Dude, not with this." He's like, "You're too white. White people can't handle it, can they?" And I'm like, "No, I can't." Like, that's weird. So, you know, I'm okay with doing those kind of jokes and stuff. And with the girl who's black, you know, like, I like to talk with her about, I guess it's not so much jokes as like hardball questions, you know, where her and we talked about stuff like the Black Lives Matter stuff, the prejudice and all that. Like, it was interesting hearing her thoughts on it, you know, and she was kind of the like, she just kind of was annoyed with it all. You know, she's not one of the people who would go out and riot or anything. So she was kind of like, I just think it's annoying. I just kind of wish we would just get over it. So it was interesting hearing her thoughts, you know, and as long as people keep it civil, I'd love to hear your thoughts. It's just, you know, it is kind of a touchy topic for some people, but honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal, just because, you know, I'm someone who doesn't care whether you're black, gay, Mexican, or whatever. So making the jokes, I'm kind of poking fun at the stereotypes. And even though like a lot of the stereotypes kind of have some vague truths to them, even though the black people one are kind of funny to me, because it's like black people like what? Fried chicken, Kool-Aid, grape juice, watermelon. And I'm just thinking, doesn't like fucking everyone like that stuff though? Like, I don't know why black people are the ones that only like, I fucking love them. So that's interesting. And it's kind of funny too, because I bet you, all I can imagine is like someone's telling all these stereotypical things to a black person, and then they're like, "But I also heard you have big penises," and they're just like, "Oh well, yeah, you know, stereotypes do have some truth to them." Yeah, like someone threw in that black people have big penises thing just to kind of be like, we're saying a lot of negative shit. Let's kind of throw in a little nice thing in there. But yeah, I make fun of white people's stereotypes all the time too, and of course some people get mad at that. Not people like I talk to it about, but I know there's people in the world who do. You know, like the white people stereotype is that they're redneck, gun-loving, Donald Trump supporting, just crazy people, I guess, basically. So I poke fun at that for sure. Like I'll sometimes joke about like, because you have, you know, in grocery stores you have Hispanic aisles, Asian aisles that have like rice, and Hispanic aisles have like the maseca and tomatillos and stuff like that. I always joke about like what a white person aisle would look like. It's just like bullets and guns right next to like oil and grease and barbecue pits and just like these random like stereotypical American things. So, you know, if you're getting offended by this, then you probably don't want to watch my stuff, to be honest, because I poke fun at all of it. Just how I am. And so sorry if that offends you, but honestly, I'm not really sorry. You just get offended too easy, personally, is what I think. But okay, so last topic. I wasn't sure if I was gonna have time. You know, I'll say this. I don't want to make these talks too long because it's just me talking. But this is back to the Chimera Club comment I had talked about earlier, but there was more to it, and he said, about the next Z-Talks, can you talk about the science or black holes and the theory of everything? Well, I was focusing more on the black hole portion. He'd like to hear the thoughts on it. But if we just talk about black holes first, they are very fascinating, but very terrifying. So if you didn't know, a black hole, like, a lot of times aren't that big. You know, they can be like the size of a dime, but have the mass of like a sun or something like that. It's, you go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's definitely something along those lines where they're very small, but they still have the condensity and the mass of like a planet. And it just boggles your mind. Like, how is it even possible? And of course, there's some supermassive black holes out there. And I'm pretty sure at the center of the universe is what we think is a black hole, like a supermassive black hole. And there's also the theories of what they do. Do they just tear you apart? Does time just stop within them? Does it lead to another wormhole? But I think a lot of people suspect that you just won't be able to survive regardless of what happens afterwards, because you might get like just obliterated, but then spat out into some alternate universe or something. I don't think that's something we're going to find out any answers to in a very, very long time. Since not even light can escape from it, you know, it's impossible. It's nearly impossible to observe. I think it is impossible, but it's like I said, very fascinating. I hope someday we can figure it out, or at least understand it a bit. You know, quick side note about the universe. Apparently there's one theory, I heard about this from a coworker. There's one theory that, you know, the universe is constantly expanding. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this, that it's infinite, basically. So, like, there's technically an edge to the universe, but it's just expanding so rapidly that you're not going to catch up ever. But because of that, like, the way it works is everything's spreading apart as well. So imagine, like, you have a balloon that's like half filled, right? And you put a bunch of dots on it, but then you fill the balloon more. The dots are separating slowly from each other. That's kind of how the universe expands. Like, so the galaxies are getting farther apart as the time goes on. There's a theory, though, that at some point the universe will collapse back upon itself. So it's going to keep going, but then eventually, like, just enclose again and repeat, which is terrifying because imagine the universe just ending. It just comes back at you like a big rubber band. I don't know what I think about that, and if it does happen, it's not going to happen for a very long time, probably. But I feel like with the whole universe drifting apart portion, it only shows the importance of putting more resources into space travel, because the longer we wait, the harder it's going to be to move to another galaxy or solar system or anything, you know, since it's slowly drifting away from us. And at some point, it'll go so fast away from us that it'll be impossible to catch up without going faster than light speeds, which, you know, is theoretically not possible, according to a lot of people. So, it's interesting stuff, man, and you're going to make me have another existential crisis. I'm going to have to just put that on hold for now. So that about does it for this Z-Talks, everyone. Let me know what you thought. I am very curious what you have to say about any of the topics mentioned. Of course, I'm very interested too, in particular, about the moving platforms from YouTube to something else. Twitch was kind of considered, but I don't want to live stream everything, and I don't know if you can just upload regularly on Twitch. I haven't really looked too much into it. I know that Pornhub is supposedly they're thinking about making something where it's like a family-friendly version for this, but not family-friendly, you know what I mean? Like, I can still upload my normal stuff, but there's not gonna be tits everywhere. So that's I don't know how I feel about that. It's interesting. I can't imagine being, you know, at my other job, being like, yeah, I'm a Pornhubber. Yeah, so on my free time, I put out videos on Pornhub. They're like, okay, that's nice. I'm like, yeah, it is nice. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.